So let's do a quick introduction and we'll get right to the interview. First of all, hi, I'm Andrew. I'm with Investors Hub, and today we're going to be chatting with Ted Ohashi. He writes the Cannabis Report for Investors Hub, and he's going to be chatting with us about what the Blue Senate means for the cannabis industry here in the U.S. He's also going to be talking about some interesting information that happened with regards to a couple of his companies in his model portfolio. Up next is Chapter Points, then we'll hear from Mr. Ohashi. So we've brought this up a few times over the past couple of weeks, but it's finally happened. The Senate has flipped blue here in the U.S. What does that mean for our cannabis industry?
What it means is that the Democrats now have full control of the three levels of government. They have the White House, they have the House of Representatives, and now the Senate. So basically any reasonable legislation they can put through, and controversial stuff, if they choose to, they can jam through. I don't think cannabis is controversial. I think the last Gallup poll showed that Americans were 68% in favor of legalization. So I think what will happen now is a lot of the cannabis legislation that had been blocked for the past 8 years or 4 years will now start to go through. And that will improve conditions for the cannabis operators in the U.S. It will give them access to regular banking services. It will take away the threat of the federal government taking action against states that have legalized. And so it will just be a general improvement for the operators. I think that the passage of 2 or 3 of the acts that have already been out there. A couple of them have already been approved by the House, but they had been shut down at the Senate level. So the MORE Act, the Banking Act, these would all now be able to be passed without too much difficulty. I mean, there are still issues. People don't always vote along party lines. And the Senate is 50-50, so it couldn't be any tighter. I mean, technically, one person shifting sides could swing the vote the other way. But nevertheless, I think the laws that have been out there and have been held up by a Republican Senate will be passed by a Democratic Senate.
So let's chat about some of your model portfolio companies. You told me that you had an interview with IM Cannabis and 1933 Industries.
Well, IM Cannabis has just acquired a company called Trichome Financial. And the way the markets responded, Trichome went up and IM Cannabis went down. And so I wanted to see what was at the bottom of that. And so I had a chat with the CEO, who's located in Israel. And he explained that what's happening is IM Cannabis intends to use Trichome as their entry into the Canadian market. They think this is a good time to be going into that market. Prices are depressed, conditions are in turmoil, and it's kind of the perfect time to be making acquisitions. And so that's what they intend to do. So Trichome is going to be their entree into the Canadian market. With 1933 is a U.S. operator. It's a bit of a turnaround situation because management was changed in June, and a fellow named Paul Rosen, who had been the biggest shareholder, or is the biggest shareholder in 1933, was appointed CEO. And so I spoke to him. The first quarter report had just come out, and there was a lot of evidence in that report that the turnaround is underway, and indeed it is. So shareholders in 1933, I think, can look forward to a very positive 2021. And even beyond that, because the company has expansion plans. So good news on both of those fronts.
You also had some interesting news about Lexaria Biosciences?
Yeah. Lexaria has been a Canadian listed company, and they have a technology that increases the bioavailability of certain materials, such as THC and CBD. And so they gradually changed away from being a cannabis company to being a pharmaceutical company. And the next step in that process is a listing on the NASDAQ exchange. And so just this week, just today, as a matter of fact, the shares started trading on the NASDAQ. And so I'm looking forward to good things from them as well.
Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think the outlook for cannabis in the U.S. Is now greatly improved. And so there's reason to be optimistic for investments in that sector over at least the next year or two. I guess the next Senate vote is in 2 years' time. And so, that might change things. But in the meantime, I think the Democrats will accomplish a lot for the benefit of cannabis and medical cannabis users as well. And so I think there's a lot of reason to be optimistic now.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you like the content, and I'll see you again soon.